Hi all, welcome back to the final whistle then for the X-Fox in the Box, episode 4. And tonight we've got the legend himself, the left foot wizard, the winger, Steve Guppy, joining us very shortly to chat about his career at Leicester City. If you're an older head and you want to ask any questions to Steve Guppy regarding his time at Leicester, then please go and do so. If any Leicester fans want to do as well, then yeah, be sure to get them in. I'll get many to Steve as possible. Like and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. Ross says, can't wait for this. Had an amazing left foot or gups. I mean, yeah, Mark O'Brien was the modern day Steve Guppy, wasn't he, Ross? But let's get the man in himself. He's not aged a bit. It's Steve Guppy. Steve, how are you?
Very well, thanks. I don't know about aged. Yeah, time has flown by. It's disgusting, but there you go.
It's been a while, hasn't it, since your career's ended, hasn't it? You obviously went into coaching. Talk to me what you've been up to since retirement.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting talking about my playing career. It's been that long. But yeah, coaching is something that I think a lot of ex-players get into. It's the nearest thing you can get to actually playing, although it's nowhere near as good or as much fun. But yeah, no, I've been coaching since I retired, probably close to 15 years now. I've been really fortunate to coach at different levels in the pro game. And hence, that's why I'm out here and living in America now, in Nashville. I've just spent 4.5 years in the MLS with Nashville Soccer Club. That came to an end around May time. So, but you know, before that, in Colorado, Atlanta, Rochester, all coaching at different levels with the game in MLS, and then in England, very fortunate to link up again with, you know, Martin O'Neill, who fantastic manager. So it was an absolute pleasure to be able to learn with him, and Steve Walford, Roy Keane, Seamus McDonough. So it was a great education, you know, working alongside them at Sunderland, Republic of Ireland, and Nottingham Forest. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. I think we've lived in about, I want to say about 25, 26 houses in the last 30 years or something. My wife will tell you, but so you have to move when an opportunity comes. But it's been quite a journey.
Ross, I didn't vote the owner of Rochester. Was it Rochester Rhinos or whatever they call it?
Rochester, yeah. No, he did. By all accounts, it's a shame that didn't work out, because that was that's an incredible story how that came about. Actually, I don't know if you've got time to talk about it, but
yeah,
it was. It actually came to be. I just retired from playing at Stevenage. I was like 39. You know, I grinded on for a few years, probably longer than I needed to. 38 maybe. And I was playing in a golf day. Muzzy had a golf day in Leicester, and I was living in Southampton at the time, and I'd actually done my back in. And I said to Muzzy, I can't play. But I think it was one of those golf days people pay a little bit of money and you have a round with someone. I said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll still come up, but I'll just walk round, because my back was like, you know, I literally couldn't swing a club. So I was walking round, and so there was players, you know, on each hole. And then one of the players, or ex-players, was a guy called Jim Melrose. And Jim was like the chief scout for Martin O'Neill back in the day. And I hadn't seen Jim for years. And I see him. I'm going down one fairway. He's going down the other one. Go the other way. And he's like, hey, and I'm like, brilliant. He goes, what do you want to do? I said, I wouldn't mind getting into coaching. And he goes, don't worry, I'll get you back playing. And I was like, no, I don't want to play. I want to get into coaching. He goes, look, I got someone. I'm helping out. They're buying a club in America. We'll get you back playing. And I'm like, I don't want to play. It was one of those conversations. He's walking further away, and I'm shouting at him. I didn't think anything more of it. And then literally a couple of weeks later, a guy called Matt Ford at Rochester Rhinos rang me up and said, listen, we've got someone buying the club, and you've been recommended to be a player. And I'm like, oh, God. Because no, I want to be a coach. And they said, how about player coach? So we settled on that. And the irony was the guy who Jim's guy was supposed to buy the club, it fell through. And then, but then the next guy came in to buy the club, and they thought, well, we've got no one else. We can pay him one set of money and get 2 jobs out of him. So that's how I got into coaching. Had a fabulous year at Rochester. What a place. Great fan base. Honestly, USL, we were getting about 12, 13,000 when we got in the playoffs. Good crowd. So when I heard that obviously Jamie Vardy was getting it back on because it went like defunct, I was excited for it, but it fell through. Obviously wasn't right, but it's a shame. So there you go.
Let's talk about Leicester. Have you kept up to date with it since obviously you've left the club?
Well, not so much this season, if I'm being brutally honest, because I just obviously here in America, the time zones and that, and there's always family stuff going on. So it's Saturday mornings where the games are on here. But obviously I see the result last night. Great result. And obviously Ruud van Nistelrooy there. I spoke to Roy Keane, little name drop there the other day about it, because obviously Ruud's his friend.
Yeah.
I think Roy recognises it's a tough job, but he's hopeful he's going to do well.
Fantastic. Let's go on to the player stuff. 189 appearances for Leicester over 4 years, 10 goals, and quite a few assists to go with it as well. Talk to me how it all started at Leicester. Obviously, 97 as you joined from Port Vale under Martin O'Neill. 850k they paid for Steve Guppy, Leicester City, Martin O'Neill. So talk to me how that move came about from Port Vale to Leicester.
Well, I had 2.5 great years at Port Vale, and actually we towards the end there we had quite a good side. We were pushing in the top 10 of the Championship. That's where Port Vale were at the time, and in all honesty, we probably a couple of players light from really challenging to get to the Premier League in our own right. And I remember coming down to Filbert Street and playing Leicester, and we drew down there, and it wasn't a happy place. I think Martin O'Neill just got the job, and there was uproar about it because I think Mark McGee left, and I think everyone was quite keen on him. But anyway, obviously they soon changed their minds, of course. But how it came to be was been playing quite well, and I saw Martin O'Neill rang me up and said, look, we made a bid for you. This went on for a good couple of months. It was quite a nerve-wracking time, to be honest. And he said, look, I've made a bid. I think it started about 500,000 and just went up 100,000 every week. And it got to the point where I knew the gaffer was getting a little bit frustrated with Port Vale. So I went to see the chairman, right? Because my contract was running out. And what saved me really was that the Bosman rule had just come in, where I could have signed for a team at this point. The Bosman rules, I could have signed for a team abroad, but on a free, but not go on a free in England like it is now. So it was the early stages of Bosman rule. So I had a team in Holland, Fortuna Sittard, they were called. And the manager was a really nice guy called Pim Verbeek. Anyway, I met him in a hotel in Stoke, and he offered me a deal to go to Holland, which meant I would have left Port Vale on a free. So I went to see the chairman at Port Vale, a guy called Billy Bow, who's a car salesman, a little bit different to the owners you have now. And I think he knew what was coming. So I sort of, wait, I know he did, because I rang him and said, I'm coming in to see you. I need to see you, blah, blah, blah. So I turned up at his car showroom, and it was like, it was like a farce, to be honest, because I'm walking into the showroom and he sees me coming, but obviously pretends he doesn't see me, and he looks to walk through a door into another back room, and I'm calling his name and he's like looking around, pretending he can't hear me. He closes the door, and I run to the door because I'm trying to catch him up. I open the door, and clearly he's done the same because I can't catch him up.
Yeah,
because he closed the door, pretends he can't see me, then he starts running because he obviously wants to. He's trying to hide. Anyway, it was actually quite comical, and I caught up with him and said, "Look, there's a club in Holland. I'm going to do it, but my preference would be obviously to go to Leicester." So how it came, about a week later, Martin O'Neill rang me up about 11 o'clock at night. He said, "Right, we've made one final bid for you, 800, whatever it was, 850. Goes if Port Vale turn this down, I'm going to go and sign a lad up in Glasgow, Scotland somewhere, and you'll know because if it's going to happen, I need you on the road for 9 o'clock the next morning to sign for Leicester for 11:30, so you can play at the weekend." So obviously there wasn't much sleep that night. That was incredible. So thankfully for me, 7 o'clock in the morning, John Rudge, the great John Rudge, Port Vale manager, legend, rang me up and said, "Look, you've done well for me. You can go." And that's how it came to be.
I mean, when Martin talks about signing players, it's kind of, you laugh at it, don't you? The way he approaches it, and that. I remember he was on about Matt Elliott, where he went so far to go get Matt Elliott. I think Matt Elliott was going to Southampton or somewhere, and then ended up bringing him to Leicester and persuading him, and then he was on about Neil Lennon, where he didn't have a contract to sign him there, and then he had to sort of get like a pizza box or something to write everything on a game to sign it on that. So yeah, it's a laugh when you speak with Martin regarding some of the players that he's signed who have gone on to do great things for Leicester. I mean, your debut would have been against Wimbledon in '97. Talk to me how it felt that day to make your debut for Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, it's I do think one of the reasons I do these sort of podcasts, is I did hopefully to inspire some young potential players listening in, because it wasn't a conventional way of me getting into professional football. I didn't do an apprenticeship at any football club. I had to come through non-league, and it was a battle. It wasn't easy. I didn't kick a ball from 16 to 18 because I didn't have my growth spurt, into this impressive specimen before you today now. So what I'm trying to say is to work, finally graft and get to the Premiership was a dream. Of course it was, but it just felt, rightly or wrongly, even more special. And I think there's a lot of Leicester players from that era, like you mentioned. Matty Elliott was playing at Oxford. I was playing for Port Vale against Oxford. Matty was there. Neil Lennon, another one. He was at Crewe. We were all playing against each other in the Championship, and all desperately hungry to get to the big leagues. And I know Neil and Matt clearly done enough at Crewe and Oxford to earn that move, and they had a good few teams in for them. So when I managed to get that nod as well, Muzzy Izzet's coming through slightly differently, but he was disillusioned at Chelsea. So there was a group of players that all came together that we pretty hungry and excited to have this opportunity that the Martin O'Neill presented to us. And obviously then you throw into Walshy and Emil, who are already there, and the like. So yeah, long answer. I keep going on about long answers to your questions here, but to play against Wimbledon in, I just remember, it was such a special game. Wasn't very good, and of course you were always got those doubts. Are you going to be good enough to play in the Premiership? It was quite a jump up from the Championship. There is no doubt. But little things, and I look back now, big occasion for my dad as well, who'd followed me, home and away in every single game I played in. So for him to be there at Wimbledon, was at Crystal Palace,
Yeah.
It was such a wonderful moment, no doubt.
Fantastic. First goal was against Tottenham in '97, 3-0 win.
Yeah.
What do you remember of that goal?
Well, it was my first and last goal against Tottenham. Funnily enough,
Yes, it was. Yeah, I was about to go on to that.
Good of Tottenham to help me out on that one. But there again, it was towards. I'm pretty sure it was towards the end of the season, that first season, and it was nice to score in the Premiership was like you played, and the next thing is to get an assist and then to score and establish yourself. And I do remember that goal. It just sort of landed to me in the box, and I just hit it as hard as I could, and it just rifled past Ian Walker, and it was just like, a bit of a dream, really. It's like I've just scored in the Premiership, so it was great goal, but it was just more than that. You're playing against these Tottenham's, Chelsea's, Man United's. It really is the big league, and to score against them is just the icing on the cake, I guess.
It is. Obviously, you mentioned about the Spurs last goal coming 2001. 4-2 win. Good win.
Yeah. What I can remember of it, I mean, a slightly different goal. Side-footed. It was. I remember I had to take 2 touches on it, so sort of managed to keep my composure and just stroke it in there. Listen, it's always great. I didn't score enough goals. I was more obsessed with setting them up for people. Looking back now, probably wasn't the best idea. Probably should have tried to chip in with a few more goals, but it was really because I wanted to cross all the time. That when everyone started showing me inside, I had to then come up with a different way of dealing with it, and that's when I started working on my right foot and actually scored a few goals for that. So if they hadn't shown me, I probably wouldn't have scored any goals, and I just carried on crossing. Excuse me.
I think one of them goals was against Chelsea. Leicester fans will say that's one of the best goals you've scored, where you've cut it on your right foot and you've put it in the top corner.
That was some day. I was talking to, incredibly how these things come around, but I was talking to the old masseur at Chelsea, and he was on the bench that day for Chelsea. I was literally talking a couple of months ago, and it came up. That goal came up. We were just chatting, just having a laugh, really. And he said that cost them the league, and that wasn't why it was so special. We weren't really out to stop Chelsea from winning the league, although I did remind Roy of that a few times because Man United won it, but he never thanked me.
Typical Roy.
Nothing new there. And he said that Vialli was the manager, and he trashed the dressing room after the game. Could he just say to the players, "You've just cost us the league. You don't even realise it. We've." But that's a little side issue. I remember that goal very, very clearly. Like I said, I didn't score enough, but it was one of them moments in life that you don't get very often. When the moment it left my foot, I knew it was in. So I had that, two whatever seconds of just like, oh my God, this is great. And I did know the moment Popescu dived in when I had the ball. For those who can remember it, it sent me inside, and the moment it sent me inside, it was like an autopilot going off in my head, where I was like, okay, little things that go through your coaching life, like John Rudge telling me that when you shoot your right foot, have your shoulders parallel to the goal, not facing the goal, parallel to the goal, because then you're more likely to get it off the end of shoot off the end of your toe rather than your heel. Little details. So if you ever see that goal, I come inside and I take another touch almost away for the goal. That's me setting up my shoulders. So I'm already planning to shoot. I know I'm shooting because I think LeBouf and Michael Dubry weren't closing me down quick enough, and it was almost like a thing going like, okay, time to shoot here. And then obviously the nice moment that left my foot, I knew it was in, and fabulous.
Within the 10 goals that you scored at the club, what was your top 5?
Jeez, I do. I do. Well, I remember 5. Do you know what? I remember there was one year when we had a goal of the season.
Mm.
And Muzzy won it, rightly so, with an incredible volley from outside the box. But I was in around that competition with, I had a little period of scoring with my right foot. Obviously, the one against Chelsea, right foot. I scored against Forest with my right foot, where I sort of jinked a little bit, which I really enjoyed that goal. So there was a little spate of right foot goals, but I did score a goal against Wimbledon with my left foot from quite a way out, and it was still rising when it hit the back of the net. And I look back at that goal, and I'm actually still shocked. It was actually me that scored it, to be honest. Could have just it's the little details, right? Well, I remember that goal against Wimbledon when I don't even know why. It was Sullivan was in goal, and he sort of shanked his clearance, and it landed to me. And really, I should have probably carried on. There was space in front and attacked the fullback to maybe, but for whatever reason, I chose to shoot. And I remember when I struck the ball sounded differently to how I normally strike it. I must have hit it so clean that it was just a pop more than anything, And there again, I knew it was in. So you can't, scoring a goal. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful feeling. But yeah, and I guess the Tottenham goal we just spoke about because it was the first goal. So will that pass? Is that enough?
No, that passes for me. Yeah, quite happy with that. Best 5 Leicester moments. I mean, it don't have to be just goals. It could be whatever moments you feel within your career you had at Leicester that you would be happy with.
Can I include nights out?
Depends if it's after the watershed.
No, better not. Obviously, debut for Leicester. I have to say the European nights at Filbert Street.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, just brilliant. I was lucky enough to experience some European nights at Celtic, and they were mind blowing. But those European nights for Leicester were amazing as well. Walking out of Wembley, playing for Leicester, Wembley was always, the greatest thing, and I'm sure your viewers will all, agree that as a kid you dream of walking out of Wembley. What's it like? What's it going to be like to walk out of that tunnel? There's a slight incline, so you start the walk and the crowd can't see you. Then as you get up that incline, then you can see the crowd over the far side, can see that the teams are walking out, and you just get hit by like a wall of sound. And it's one of those few moments in life, I guess, where that sort of thing was every bit as good as you dreamed it would be. So playing at Wembley, obviously you want to win because it's quite a lonely place to be when you don't win. Yeah. So winning, beating Tranmere and Matty Elliott scoring those 2 great goals, which I put on a plate for him. It was honestly, and I'll get back to what I spoke about earlier. There was a group of players all coming together.
Yeah.
We'd been lower leagues. We'd all desperate to play in the Premier League or to play as high as we can. And we sort of that hunger really shone through, I think.
What a team.
Jerry Taggart, came later on. Robbie Savage.
Yeah.
He was playing at Crewe as well. So I remember his famous quote of, it's like he felt he won the pools when he signed, draped over a Porsche that he just bought. But yeah, it was just playing, and it was such an exciting period because we were in every game. It felt like pretty much, and we were in amongst getting to finals, and it was just qualifying for Europe. It was just an exciting period. The whole period, my whole Leicester period was just nothing but great memories.
Yeah, obviously you were cupped out, weren't you, for 97 when you'd obviously joined, and to miss out on that one, to not play in that one. Talk to me about the League Cup final. I mean, you mentioned it with Tranmere. I mean, what was the feeling to go and win that trophy? I mean, you obviously had the Matt Elliott goals and that with it. I mean, what was the day like as a whole?
Yeah, well, we obviously had a taste of it leading into that because me, Matty Elliott, Marshy, were all cup tied for the first one. And I didn't play in any of the games, so why would you come in for the final? So I know Mickey Whitlow was the left back, and he did a great job, and that was a fabulous win. But to be around that in the dressing room, and it went to a replay obviously, and beat a very good Middlesbrough team. That was great to be around that. And then we got our own taste against Tottenham. So we got it was like I say, it was always something going on every year. We were seen to be getting to a final or something was happening. So we got that that Tottenham final, which to lose it in the last minute was desperate. I remember that because we lost the game in the last minute, last kick pretty much in a very tight game. And I know Emil will probably tell you we wasn't really fully fit, and Ian Marshall, who was really good forward for Leicester. Was so effective. I love playing with Emil and Marshy because for putting crosses in. Yeah, so we didn't quite have the full firing line that day against Tottenham. And I remember personally speaking, we lost the game, and I was 30 the next day. Oh, I thought it was the end of the world. It was two shocking landmarks. So then go back the following year to beat, to win it. It was incredible, and I don't remember too much about the actual game itself. I think we were worthy winners, if I remember rightly. But yeah, 2 set pieces. But it's just what I do remember is those moments of taking those corners, trying to compose myself, make sure I hit the spots. Because Elliot and Tags used to give me dog's abuse if I didn't hit the spot. But if you look back at those goals, Matty obviously fantastic. I knew I had to hit that area, get as much whip on as I could. Martin O'Neill always had someone at the near post in case I sort of shanked it or like underhit it, or someone around the back in case I overhit it. So he gave me the insurance to go for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you look at that goal again, Tony Cottee does a brilliant job by stopping their keeper for coming. So there was a number of little bits that went into that, and I just remember that I had to try and hit that spot with as much whip because I knew them boys, Matty and all the rest of them would, and that's going through the whole season, whether it's Tags, whether it was Walshy, whoever it was, Emil, Marshy, especially, I guess they would really attack it. So they give you every chance to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, the goalkeeper for Tranmere that day, I believe he's still playing. He's back at Tranmere. So yeah, he's obviously gone through the years, and he's since obviously played Leicester in Tranmere. Obviously, he's played as recently in the cup this season. So wow. It's interesting how life fast forwards in it to when it was. What was it, 24 years? So
it's amazing, isn't it? Oh, it's Murphy, right? Was his name Murphy?
Yeah, Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, goalkeepers go on forever. Fair play to him. But yeah, that's incredible. He's still playing. Fair play to him. I didn't know that.
Talk to me about managers. I mean, you played under a few, haven't you? Martin O'Neill, Mickey Adams, Peter Taylor, Tatapila, as Walshy likes to call him. Talk to me how. We'll start with Martin O'Neill. Obviously, he had a big influence on your career, didn't he? You've spoke about him quite highly with your career and that. You've gone from left back to playing on left wing to doing what you did for Leicester. I mean, how big of an influence was Martin on your career at Leicester?
Well, it wasn't just Leicester. I first ran into him when I was playing non-league at Wycombe Wanderers.
Yeah.
We were a mid-table team in the Vauxhall Conference. Once again, in fairness, we were a group of young players, very, very similar to Leicester. Group of young players who'd been, a lot of them had been released from clubs. I hadn't, as I said, I was plucked off a building site. but we were really hungry, and there was some talent in there as well. I think in that Wigan team, there was I think I want to say two, maybe three players went on to play in the Premier League, and most of them went on to play in the league. So it was a good team, but we were mid-table for whatever reason. And then the manager left before Martin O'Neill came in, and just it was just wow, took us all on a journey. And there is no doubt in life you need a bit of luck, right? And my bit of luck that I had someone like Martin O'Neill who believed in my talent, and he was going places as well. And that was such an, that will look back now and go, yeah, okay, I had to earn his trust and earn that, but that was incredible. And being an ex-winger himself as a player, I know he played central midfield as well, but he was a winger for many years. He understood the role and wanted, the best for, saw how destructive and taking players on can be, and all the things that, were needed to be able to do that. And I guess, and that it was such a big thing in my whole career, really, that he was, he came back and took me to Leicester and gave me the chance in the Premier League, and 4 or 5 years brilliantly together, and then obviously carried on as a coaching role. So I count myself really fortunate that I was able to impress someone who's such a great manager. I'm still stunned, absolutely stunned, that he's not a manager somewhere. I cannot fathom why he's not, because he is the best manager, I believe, that I've worked with at man management, and motivation and what have you. So I think he's a loss to the game. I really do.
Your next manager after him was obviously Peter Taylor. I wouldn't say things were great under Taylor, to be honest. If you talk to Leicester fans and the players themselves, talk to me about after Martin O'Neill left and Peter Taylor come in.
Yeah, it was. Do you know what? I mean, it was actually quite funny. It turned out funny. I mean, the reality is that Peter Taylor wasn't such a big fan of me, which is kind of fine. You know what I mean? Looking back now, it's obviously at the time I was a little bit put out because I played every minute, every game, and I thought I was, a valued member of the team, and I thought the assists I would get. But it comes down to choice, right? Because Taylor, wanted to bring in a different type of wing back. He brought Callum Davidson in. Callum's a good player, but Callum was a defender. So Callum would get, would certainly be brilliant at 1v1 defending, challenging, heading, all those things that I wasn't good at. But you get over the halfway line in the final third, and then you weren't going to get any assists from Callum, or very few. So, you pick what you choose, and I do think, as from my coach point of view, I think that if you play wing backs these days, forward thinking wing backs is the way forward, because you have that extra defender anyway, back. But Peter Taylor wanted to go down a more defensive route, and it didn't work. But for me, obviously, it meant it was quite comical because we'd gone through pre-season and real sign whether you were going to play, whether or not. I got the feeling that he wasn't really having me, but nothing was said. And then on the eve of the first game against Aston Villa, it's actually on the game day. He didn't name the team. I got in early, and I got the curly finger to the manager's office before the game, which is never good. And he said, "You're not involved today." And I didn't really hear him properly, and I was like, okay, because I sort of conditioned myself that I might not start. I goes, no, okay, well, maybe I'll get a chance to shine later on in the game when I come on. He goes, no, you're not involved today. So I didn't even make the subs bench. So that was quite a kick in the teeth, I guess, having played every minute for like 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. So, but when it came quite funny is that in my own selfish mind, like players do, so I went home and obviously sulked about it all weekend. And I thought in my mind, Monday morning, I'm going to go and see Peter Taylor and sort of have it out with him, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had it in my mind that I wanted to get there before him. don't know why. You just little things in your head. So I'm in the car park of the training ground at 7 a.m. and he gets in at 7:30, and it kind of worked because he's coming in the car and he's like double taked as he's seen me there. So he was shocked to see me, and of course he knows what's coming. So so he gets his office. I'm straight in, knocked on the door, come in, sit down, and I'm like, okay, Peter, what is it? And and he's like, he had this magnetic board beside his desk, and he got up and he started moving the pieces around. He's like, look, Steve, he goes, the thing is, because I think we look, and he's moving the pieces around. He goes, we look a better team when you're not in it. And he said just like that. It was like sledgehammer. And I'll be honest, he was trying to put it politely, but he couldn't think of it, and it just came out. We looked at each other, and we both burst out laughing. It was a funny moment because it was just like, bloody hell! I didn't realize it was that bad, and it was like I think I said something like, "Listen, don't open the door. I won't open the door on my way out. I'll slide straight under it." And I don't know what it was, but it kind of sort of diffused the situation, as it were. And I was just like laughing. I went, geez. I did play a few games for Peter, and the irony is that I then had a chance to go to Celtic.
Yeah.
And I'm on the way to the airport, and Peter Taylor rings me up and asks me to stay and offers me a new deal. But I was like, by then I was like, no, that's done. And so I don't share the same hatred for Peter Taylor that Walshy's got, but the reality is he didn't really rate me, which that's life. But there were some funny moments in it, and I know he really would love to have done well at Leicester, and it just didn't work out. Recruitment's a big part of success, of course, and maybe he would look back on that and think that he could have done a better job.
Yeah. Mickey Adams is your next one. I believe he was the last manager you worked at Leicester. This was your second spell, wasn't it, at Leicester? You did come back. I think it was January time. I think it was the season we went down. Talk to me about that part of the season.
Yeah, do you know what? The old saying, you should never go back.
Yeah.
Sort of still ringing in my ears to this day. I had a chance to go to another club, and probably in hindsight, I should have done that. Because I spoke to Mickey fairly recently. I get on well with Mickey now. Now we're all, years have gone by, and actually he was a player who played for Southampton when I was growing up. I used to watch Mickey play, and he's a very good fullback in his own right. I just don't think I was his type of player, and I know Muzzy was really pushing to try and get me to come back, and I wonder if in hindsight, that was. I came back and it started off all right, and and I thought we'd have enough to get out of it, but then Dave Bassett was there as well, and whether Dave was heavily involved in picking the team, I don't know, but I just seemed to slip out of it. I think it just came down to the fact that, realistically, I probably wasn't the type of winger they were after. I think Dave Bassett's wingers are ones that come inside and chase flick-ons from headers and things like that, where I wanted the ball at my feet. So it was just a choice of, style of play. But yeah, look back now and think, that's not good on the CV. I really wish that we had stayed up. I think we should have done, if I'm being honest, but we didn't, and I didn't get the chance to play as much as I'd like to have done to try and help the situation.
Fair enough. Ross talks about England. I mean, obviously he played at England with I think it was the under-19s, the B side, and then obviously you made your name, didn't you? I think England won in your debut when you'd made your debut for the senior England side. How did it feel representing England?
Well, it's I was a bit repeat myself a little bit. It was incredible, and it's funny as you get older, you look back, and certain things become more important, and there is no doubt the connection that I had with my dad playing football for so many years was something I look back now when on the odd occasion I think about my playing career, it tends to involve him because he had such a massive impact, on my life. Like most parents, like he from the age of 4 or 5 years old, I was in the back garden, dropped my shoulder going past him, and that really led to an obsession of 1v1 work that ultimately led to me having a playing career. So I owed him so much. And I do remember that day playing for England. We were lined up and playing Belgium. And they play the national anthem. As you know, they play it here in America all the time. But in England, as you know, it's a cup final or you play for your country. That's the only time you get it. So it was quite a big thing, the national anthem. So I remember, as the music starts, she's singing it and what have you. And I looked up in the crowd and I spotted my dad straight away. Yeah. And it wasn't one of those emotional moments. It was we looked at each other and started laughing because it was almost like we could not believe it come to this. Do you know what I mean? All those years of struggle and what have you. And then to play for England. I know as Roy, I keep mentioning him, I've got to stop doing that. He always used to say I played 2 games that day, my first and my last. And yeah, I've got my own chapter in a book, One Cap Wonders, which is, I don't know, something to be proud of. But the only thing I say is that I actually thought I played all right that day. And, I certainly had chances to play in other games. I was coming on against Scotland in the playoffs, but then Don Hutchinson scored. It was already pre-planned. I was coming on at half-time. And then Kevin Keegan changed his mind because, Scotland looked like they could, get back into the tie in the English playoffs. I don't know if you remember any of this, probably not. But anyway, I had chances to get other caps. But when I look back on my own journey, I think I didn't kick a ball from 16 to 18. And, I tell this story where when I was 18 years old, I started playing with my mates from school. They started a team in Southampton, like Division 6 Sunday afternoon. I mean, it's as low as you can get. And my schoolmates are useless, by the way. So they talked me into playing again because I'd retired at 16. And so I turned out that day. It was one of them pitches. There's like 20 other pitches, 20 games going on. I'm on one pitch. And I made my debut that day for that team. And then the same time, I think it was lad Ferreira playing for Barcelona. And then within 8 or 9 years, I'll be playing against him for Leicester City against Chelsea. And you think, that's quite a journey from that. So to walk out for England, even if it was only once, it doesn't take any of the shine off for me because I just think that was an incredible journey to get there.
Yeah, Ross says you still remain the only footballer to have played for England's under-21s, England's semi-pro, England B, and the full England team. He also goes on to say Kevin Keegan described you as a little bit like a left-sided David Beckham.
Yeah, I was I do remember that. It was a great period, maybe because I got into the game so late. I was a bit older by the time I got onto the England front. Maybe if it had been a few years earlier, if my career had worked out, it could have done. But listen, it happened. It was great, fantastic memories, and something I'll always cherish.
Fantastic. Steve Guppy, I'm going to ask you a question. I think you know what I'm going to ask you next. Your best 11 you played with.
Oh, jeez.
I did it with Walshy.
Here's the thing. I see that. Right, I watched Walshy's thing. I loved it. It made me want to do it because I see Steve got right into it, and it's such a long time ago. And
I'm gonna let you pick your formation, and then we'll let you pick your manager first. Whichever manager you want to go with, Leicester manager.
Yeah, I was thinking today. I thought, well, Jack's not reached out to me about my best 11, so he can't be wanting it. I think you've given me a little bit of a heads up, but clearly you haven't. But Walshy, you did because he was ready. So I feel
he sent it me on WhatsApp.
Jeez. Well, I'll give you the skeleton. So Tim Flowers in goal. That's
Okay.
the Matty Elliott centre half. Tags and Walshy. Let's go with them back three.
Okay.
Oh, geez. In the middle of the park, easy. Muzzy, Lenny. Do you know what? It's a toss. Gary Parker was a really good player for Leicester. And of course, Robbie Savage brought such energy to the team. And you know, so it's a toss up between those two because they were both excellent players. But I'll go with Parks because when I first came into the team, you know, he was really in his plum, and what a good player Parks was. Really, really good player. Great range of passing. There's no slight on Sav because you know Robbie was great, absolutely great player. Geez, yeah. I'm trying to think. You know, Simon Grayson. I know he left after through my time, but he was Simon as a wing back. You know, he had a knack of putting in, you know, really good performances. Obviously, he was a captain when they beat Middlesbrough, right? Was he? But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I'm going to pick Simon because Andy Impey did, you know, was a great lad as well. And it's the thing, you know, you think back, you go, Darren Eadie. Geez, we'll put Darren Eadie on the left.
Yeah.
He was, you know, I thought he was, you know, a really, really good player, and injury stopped him from really having a, you know, an even better career. So we go with Jockey. But Simon Grayson, you know, when I first came to Leicester, they played Wimbledon in the semi-final of that cup. You know, everyone remembers the Middlesbrough win, but to get to that final, they had to go down to Wimbledon and sort of put on a heroic display against a very, very tough, you know, your John Fashionews, Vinnie Jones, fierce. And I think a lot of teams would have buckled under the pressure, but that Leicester team had such a, you know, a steely resolve that Martin Hill installed in them. And I remember that night, it pains me to praise Simon Grayson this much, to be fair. But I thought, you know, he in there, you know, it was just everyone that night, you know, they were all heroes to get to the final. So I'll go with Simon Grayson as the right side for that night alone.
Strikers.
Well, do you know what? I mean, Steve Claridge is a good buddy of mine, and I think Steve is absolutely, you know, what happened. Those two goals he scored for Leicester in the cup finals meant that he's had two of the greatest feelings in life anyone could ever have. You know, those goals. So I hope he can forgive me, but I'm not putting him in because he was a great player. But he left. You know, halfway through to go to Wolves as well. But Steve was a brilliant player, back to goal, especially. You know, they called him the poor man Kenny Dalglish, which any reference to Kenny Dalglish is amazing. Maybe I just made that up. Who knows? But the three players, Tony Cottee, absolute, you know, was fantastic. Oh, do you know Stan Collymore as well? Bloody hell. Emile Heskey and Ian Marshall. Now, yeah, and obviously Stan came in that 1 year where him and Emile really, really hit it off. And, you know, and it was exciting times for that year where we really felt like we'd gone up a notch as a team, and we could have, you know, if everyone had stayed around, we could have maybe really challenged something really quite special. But obviously Leicester teams in later years have gone on and done that anyway. Do you know what? I'm going to go with Emile Heskey and Ian Marshall.
Fantastic. Manager?
Well, Martin Hill. That's
Martin Hill.
No-brainer.
Okay. I'm going to ask you the best player you've played with, and also the worst player.
Wow, that's a shocker. Yeah, listen. All right, best player. I mean, I always thought Muzzy Izzet was the best Leicester player in a team of very good players. Matty Elliott, you know, being someone else. Neil Lennon obviously went on, did great things. But Muzzy just, maybe it was the sort of player that I liked. He had it all. He had it all. He worked hard. He got stuck in, and his skill was sublime. And of course, he scored goals. So to me, Muzzy, I'm sure Chelsea regretted selling him.
Yeah.
But best player ever played with, I mean, it'd be crazy, I guess, not to mention Henrik Larsson at Celtic. You know, a true world-class finisher, world-class player. So there was another lad called Lubo Moravcik that a lot of people don't know about, who was lights out, unbelievable. But just for his goals alone and what a great player he was, I'd probably have to say Henrik Larsson.
What about worst?
Oh, yeah.
There are a few on the list.
Jeez. Oh, God. That's tough. I mean, do you know what? I'm not. I don't want to sit on the fence, but I am going to. It's tough, you know. Professional. You know how hard it is to become a professional footballer.
Yeah.
You know that is not easy. So even there were players. I used to have major arguments with my fullbacks for not giving me the ball. I mean, we used to fall out. I'd fall out with anyone over it, and I'm not that type of person. But on match day, if they didn't give me the ball, so there'd be a few fullbacks maybe at my time at Wickham who I'd be tempted to throw under the bus for not giving me the ball. But that's a tough one, Jack. I mean, you're being harsh there, mate. I'm just trying to think who it is I don't really like, who I could throw it out there. But
what about Leicester once?
I don't know, mate. I think once again, you know, there was some cracking play. I can't answer that one, Jack. There was everyone had some good and bad performances, no doubt. You know, I could definitely mention some poor games I played in. But I'll tell you what I say whenever we always did well against the bigger clubs, I thought the Leicester team I played in, apart from Arsenal. Arsenal were just another level, it would seem, especially down at Highbury. So whenever we played there, it was an absolute shoo-in half the time. So you could name most of the team as the worst players whenever we set foot on Highbury. I'll say that.
The next one is the stat. There's a stat about you, probably that people wouldn't know. Obviously, we spoke about it before we started recording this. Steve Guppy become the first player to play at both the new Wembley and old Wembley. Guppy also became the first ever player to win medals at both new and old Wembley.
Yeah, there you go. It's a Trivial Pursuit question. It was. Yeah, I mean, I can remember like the first time I played at Wembley for Wycombe Wanderers was just incredible. It changed my life, I think, because then we all, you know, it was in non-league and it was against Kidderminster Harriers, funny enough. And then my last game at Wembley was for Stevenage Borough against Kidderminster Harriers. And do you know how it came to be? Is I'd retired, was living back in England, and a lad I used to room with at Celtic was playing Sean Maloney.
Yeah.
Right? Sean Maloney was a very good player. He's obviously now manager of Wigan, but he was quite a young player then, and I was helping him. And we went on a training camp, me and him, down in Chichester, and so I just trained him as I was getting into coaching. The 1v1 stuff is something really close to my heart, and sort of dedicated my whole coaching life to 1v1 play. And he was brilliant at it. So we spent the whole summer working on 1v1s. He'd take me on, I'd take him on. And even though I retired, I just got such a level of fitness of working with someone, because he got to move to like Aston Villa shortly afterwards. It was that good. And so I finished the summer. He went off back up because it was Celtic at the time. And I was like ridiculously fit and felt really sharp, having worked with him, you know, every day. You know, we banned chocolate. It was incredible. We sort of tucked ourselves away and just really, really went for it. It was brilliant. And then my mate knew someone at Stevenage, and they were bottom of the Vauxhall Conference. And they were struggling for their left winger was injured. Anyway, cut long story short, I went down, had no intention of really getting involved, ended up playing there the whole season. And it was like an Indian summer, where I just felt I was playing at the top of my game, really enjoyed it. And actually that team, we were bottom of the conference. And by the time the season ended, we would have won it, I think, if it wasn't, we sold our best player, his name, but that team, bottom of the league in the conference, I think it was like 4 players who ended up playing. George Boyd was the player we sold. There was about 4 players ended up playing in the Premier League. It was mental. So I signed for Stevenage the same day Steve Morrison signed for Stevenage, who played in the Premier League as a centre forward. George Boyd was playing left wing, but he was wasted there. He was more of a 10. So me coming in meant George moved in there. So and there was another centre midfielder who played for Derby for many years, and it was like a really good side. And so we were bottom of the league. So chairman came in at Stevenage. Bear in mind, Vox Conference. It said, right, what I'll do is every game you win, if you win 3 games on the spin, after that, I will put £1,000 into your kitty for your holiday end of year trip. And we went on a run. I can't honestly. We were making so much. The chairman it was like we ended up with about 20 grand plus in the kitty for a Vauxhall Conference team to go on holiday with 20 grand. And it's like a lot of players, their missus won't let them go. So there was only a group of about 8 of us. We had 20 grand that we had to spend on a holiday. So we ended up going to Vegas for a week. It was phenomenal. But that final, I pulled my calf, and I didn't hardly pull a muscle my whole career. I pulled my calf 6 weeks before the final, and I got back fit, but I wasn't fit. It's almost like I'd had this 6-7 months of being 39 years old, but still playing pretty well. And it was almost like I fell off a cliff and got injured. And that was just enough to put a pin in me. And I came back, and Mark Stimpson, the manager, kept faith in me and played me in the final. But I was absolutely brutal. As Ross said here, we were 2-0 down at half time. I think I was at fault for both goals. It was an absolute disaster. And I think I would have been taken off at half time. But we were going down the tunnel at half time, and the Kidderminster players were saying all over, they were being really chirpy. And it turned into a big fight, which the Stevenage manager was involved. Everyone was involved in this fight in the tunnel at Wembley, the new Wembley. And I think because of that, he forgot to take me off. Because I went back out in the second half and I was equally as bad. And I think what summed it up is my mate in Leicester, AD Danes. I don't know if you know AD, but he's well known. He came to the game. He travelled down because it was like, it was in my mind, it was like my last ever game professionally or in England. And he travelled down to watch me play, which was very nice of him. And he didn't ring me for 6 months. And then finally, after 6 months, he rung me. He goes, "Have you got over it yet?" And I went, "Just about." But that was the beauty of it, is that I did change the game because I went off at 2-0 down. It was one of them, the tannoy came up saying substitution. I didn't even look up. I just ran off because I knew it was my number. And the guy who came on scored one, set one up, and we won the game 3-2. So I like to think I changed the game by making way for the true hero that day.
Yeah, Ross, that was the first competitive match and final to be played at the new Wembley Stadium.
That was amazing. I just wish I played better, but time caught up with me, sadly, on that one.
Fantastic. Steve Guppy, thank you for chatting with me on the X-Fox in a Box. You've been great. Before I let you go, let everybody know what you're up to these days in regarding coaching.
No, honestly, it's like I was a bit like Walshy. I think I warmed into it as it went on, like he did, because it's been that I never talk about my career. Kids aren't interested. No one's interested. And that's fine. Because as a coach, it's all about the next generation. It's someone else's turn now. So this has been quite fun, I guess. But yeah, a coach now. I started my own business a couple of years ago, where I offer 1v1 tournaments here in America. Just really trying to to keep spreading that message, because I think people, especially young players, this is for parents now, why 1v1 work is so vitally important for all young players' development is because when you actually break it down, when you take a player on, whether it's a shoulder drop or scissors, what you're actually doing is combining 2 or more body parts. So when you're moving at pace, being balanced, combining 2 or more body parts means what you're talking about is coordination. So coordination and movement is absolutely vital for all kids' development. So I do that. To be fair, it's sweeping across America and Canada. I'm very busy right now, so it's nice to talk about something that happened many years ago. And now when we finish here, I've got to get back to emails.
Fantastic. Gups, thanks for coming on, mate, and all the best.
Same to you. All the best.
Cheers, mate. That was Steve Guppy, Leicester City legend, a guy who won the League Cup with Leicester and had some many fond memories with the Foxes. All the best to Guppy in his coaching. Guys, if you've enjoyed this stream, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you watch this on playback, let me know your thoughts on what we've discussed in the X-Fox in the Box. And let me know your favourite Steve Guppy moments. See you later, mate. Who's next on the Fox in the Box, Junior Lewis? Who knows who's next, Ross? But no, serious news, I'm not sure. But that is episode 4 done. Thanks for watching. What's coming up on the final whistle? So we've got the match preview of Brighton. Come to the King Power Stadium on Saturday. Leicester take on Brighton next in the Premier League. We've got that coming up on Friday at 8 p.m. And then we have the match day vlog for Brighton Sunday. Premier League predictions will be back this week. So, look out for that as well. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great rest of your evening, wherever you're up to, and keep it here at the final whistle. Hi all, thank you for watching the final whistle. If you enjoy all our content, please remember to smash a like, share and subscribe to the channel.